Assaulting the narrative. Destroying the lie. Unearthing the truth. I want the truth! This is The Truth with John Gordon.
Well, welcome everybody to this week's edition of The Truth. We're coming to you today from Los Angeles, California. Behind me is the famed Beverly Wilshire Hotel. We're staying across the street at a beautiful hotel right here in the middle of Beverly Hills, overlooking the mountains surrounding Los Angeles, the Hollywood Hills, where all the stars live. And we've had wonderful weather and a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you have as well. Well, today we're going to talk about everything Trump and also about the inadequacies of the Biden and the Harris administration and where we are. There's a lot to unpack that has occurred this Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you're safe and I hope you've had a wonderful Thanksgiving. So now in the aftermath of the campaign, there are a number of winners and losers. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Of course, Donald Trump and his supporters are the victors, and all the people that he has nominated to be in his administration. It is an all-star cast. It is a Super Bowl team. And if you look at the people that he has selected, they all pretty much, or not all, but many of them, like Robert Kennedy Jr., like Tulsi Gabbard, are victims or have been victims of the bureaucracies that they have now been picked to lead. So I think that's going to set up a pretty interesting dynamic. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And I, for one, cannot wait for Donald Trump to get inaugurated January 20th, 2025, and for him to go right to work, as I'm sure he's already begun. He's already accomplished more in about 3 weeks than Biden has been able to do in 4 years, if you ask me. One of the casualties of the Trump administration is Matt Gatz. I happen to really like Matt Gatz. I don't know if the allegations that the deep state have resurrected about him are true, but they have really done a number on him. The allegations are that he's used illegal drugs, that he has been seen using drugs. He's also engaged in extramarital affairs and has paid for sex with prostitutes. I don't know what to believe. I really don't. Gatz says that all those things were investigated by the Congressional Ethics Committee, that he doesn't really say that he was absolved or that he was found to be innocent. He just said that no conclusions or findings were made and that the investigation was brought to an end. Well, his detractors from both parties have resurrected that. And so now Gatz is left in a really uncomfortable position. He thought that he was being very clever in resigning from Congress, which had the effect of bringing the congressional investigation and their authority to an abrupt halt. But it didn't stop the mainstream media and the Washington swamp from continuing their assault on Matt Gatz. And so we don't really know what to make of that, frankly, other than now he's not a member of Congress. He has said that, well, he just resigned from the current Congress, not from the next Congress. That might be a little bit of a stretch. I didn't hear that in his resignation. Maybe he could pull that off, but I have my doubts. He could make himself a candidate for re-election. He's very popular in Florida. He's very popular in his district. He would probably win, but that is not without risk. He would have to defend the allegations that have been leveled against him. I'm sure that he would probably draw an opponent. And I think that the opponent would probably want to get into the allegations that have been leveled against him. One of the other casualties, I think, of the 2024 election would have to be Nancy Pelosi. A lot of Democrats are lining up saying you need to go quietly into the night, that she orchestrated the coup against Biden that she pretty much hand selected Harris. Harris, the lady that ran against Trump, she never received a single primary vote to become the Democratic nominee. When she did run for president in 2020, she got less than 2% and had to drop out because it was obvious that her campaign was going nowhere fast. So Pelosi and some of her colleagues, like Schumer, and I'm sure that Adam Schiff didn't have his fingerprints on it, but he was cheering them on in the background. They orchestrated this and it backfired, not surprisingly to me. And I think to most people that have watched politics for a long time. And the whole Harris campaign was founded on a pack of lies, starting with the one that she and Biden got elected with 80 million votes. Donald Trump, who got more popular votes than any president in the modern era, was only able to get 76 million, but we're to believe that Biden and Harris got 80 million. It was a lie then, it's a lie now. Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman need to give back their Presidential Medal of Honor award, and Rudy Giuliani needs to be rehabilitated. He's one of the real casualties of Trump 45 and the 2020 election. And I have great empathy for him. He is America's mayor. He stood up to the mob. He turned New York City around when he became the mayor, cleaned the city, got rid of the crime, got rid of all the X-rated stores in Times Square where people bring their children. And he also led us through 9/11. And now the deep state have done such a number on him. They've taken family heirlooms. They're trying to rip them away from him. And they have tried to take a watch that his father gave him. And now they're trying to take his homes away, his townhouse in New York, his condominium in Palm Beach, and they've stripped him of his law license. And what he did was what he should have done, and that was to represent his client competently and to the best of his ability. Where he was complaining about a stolen election, we can see Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman on videotape scanning the same stacks of 100 ballots, approximately 100 ballots, back through the tabulators multiple times at the State Farm Arena. Other ladies doing the same thing after they had declared that the tabulating was over for the night, run off the observers, run out the press, and then they bring this defamation lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani, win in a courtroom that with a biased judge and a jury that was 95% in favor of Biden, and then just ruin this man. It's not supposed to happen in America. And I want you to take out a piece of paper and a pen and write your congressman, write a letter to the editor of the paper, and just tell them that it is sheer meanness. It's absolutely wrong. And that Rudy Giuliani needs to be rehabilitated. And I'm going to continue to do everything I can as one person to help facilitate it. It pains me to see what this man has been put through and what they have done to shatter his life and very existence. So Biden came in on a lie and he's going out on a lie. Kamala Harris proved to be as inept at campaigning as she was at governing. She said that she was in the room on every major decision that was made and that she told The View that she wouldn't go back on any of them. She and Biden were resoundingly defeated if it was a referendum on their administration, and it appears that she made it that way. But folks, if you look at what this campaign spent, it is just unbelievable that they raised $1.6 billion through campaign funds and 501c4s that were friendly to their campaign, that were supportive of them. And they spent $1.5 billion. They paid Beyonce $3 million for coming to a campaign rally where she was supposed to perform. She did not perform. She took the stage. She acted like she was not happy to be there. She made a tepid endorsement of Harris and then got off the stage. She never delivered on a promise, which was to perform. So I don't know where that memorandum of understanding is and what recourse the Harris campaign has. But similarly, she went on with Oprah in a town hall that was so clearly staged. And Oprah gave her the most softball questions. And even Oprah acted like she was uncomfortable. Like, if you read the body English, like, is that really the best that you can do? And here I am having to put my credibility on the line as being the host of this contrived town hall meeting. Well, researchers have found that the Harris campaign paid Oprah $1 million. Oprah denies it. She says, no, she didn't get anything. Well, Oprah's playing kind of fast and loose with the facts now, we find out, because the $1 million went to her company, Harpo Productions. So nobody's really happy with anybody in the Democratic Party. The knives are out against Pelosi. They're telling her she needs to go quietly in the night. And then Kamala stages her re-entry from her vacation in Hawaii. And, the thing I can't understand, I just don't understand the human condition and why people react in the ways that they do. But talking heads on television say, well, it was a very interesting interview. People are abuzz about it on the internet. There are all sorts of rumors floating around about the interview. Why don't they just come out and say it? She was sloshed for the interview. She appeared to be inebriated. She appeared to be under the influence of something, and it kind of confirmed the rumors that were floating around during the campaign that she has a drinking problem. And it appears that her first re-entry video, that she was boozing it up. Here's the clip. I'll let you watch for yourself.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
So you can be the judge. And then she came back and went to a homeless shelter where she and her running mate, Tim Walz, served food to people for Thanksgiving, which that was a very noble gesture. I commend them for that. But it really seems like the only people having fun these days are Donald Trump and his new bromance with Elon Musk. Here they are at Mar-a-Lago Thursday night celebrating Thanksgiving to the tune of YMCA. And everybody in that room looks like they're having fun, don't they? So while Biden or Harris and Walz talked about joy, it seems like the only people that are really joyous these days are Donald Trump and his supporters as they prepare to usher in the 47th president of the United States. Well, you see, he's already gone to work. The president of Mexico called President Trump earlier this week. They had a conversation. She claims that the word tariffs never came up, even though it's no secret that Trump is threatening to tariff Mexico and Canada into oblivion, economic oblivion, if they don't do their part to stem the influx of illegal aliens and illicit drugs across the Canadian and Mexican borders in the United States. Well, now the president of Mexico has said, of course we're going to help you. Of course we're going to do our part. We're going to deploy Mexican soldiers to the border, and we are going to help reinstitute the stay in Mexico policy. We're going to do our part to stem the influx of illegals into America. And we're going to stop the influx of fentanyl and illegal drugs into your country. So all the talking heads were wringing their hands saying, oh, this is terrible policy. If Trump imposes these tariffs, it's going to cause consumer prices to escalate. It will be horrible for America. No, what's going to be horrible for America would be to allow the illegal influx of illegal immigration into America and destroy U.S. cities where thugs, murderers, convicted felons have entered the United States and then continued their lawlessness here in the United States, like the guy that just got convicted of murder for Laken Riley. And she's not the only one. There have been a number of atrocities that have been committed by illegals that have entered the United States. And in the case of Laken Riley's murder, the United States government paid for him to take a flight from New York to Atlanta, and he ends up in Athens, Georgia, where he commits murder. It is absolutely atrocious. It is the most despicable conduct of any administration I've ever seen to enable these things to have occurred. And they did it because they thought that these illegals, they call them undocumented, would be able to go and vote. But thanks to Laura Trump and Michael Whatley and people who worked on elections integrity for the 2024 elections, they stopped them dead in the tracks. They had lawsuits ready to go saying that you cannot allow illegals to vote in the presidential election. And I think it had a tremendous impact. So the Harris campaign ended in the same way that it began, based on lies. The Biden-Harris administration was a lie. 80 million votes didn't happen, and the election was stolen. And so when Harris loses her election, her campaign says, oh, we just got the narrative wrong. We got the wrong talking points. We had the right talking points, but we didn't deliver them in the right fashion. No, wrong. The American people overwhelmingly rejected your dogma. It doesn't matter how much perfume or lipstick you put on the pig, what you were selling was not going to fly. Americans don't want an open border. Americans don't want high prices. Americans don't want inflation. Americans don't want $2 trillion in federal deficit spending. And that's what the Biden-Harris administration gave us. And when Harris was asked on The View if she would have changed anything over the last 4 years, she said no, she couldn't really think of any. So that's what's in her heart. That's what's in her soul. And so she then went and said she was for closing the border. She was for getting inflation under control. Just more lies. And then out of the other side of her mouth, she said, but her values haven't changed. So the American people are just not that stupid. But it seems like Kamala Harris is that stupid, and that she would spend campaign money recklessly on celebrity endorsements that probably did more harm than good, and waste donor donations to her campaign. And now they're like, no more. She's back running ads as we speak, trying to solicit money. And for what? Because they've got $150 million in excess cash that they raised. So I don't know what they're proposing to raise money for, but the donors are running to the hills. They're saying, no, this was a bad idea, Nancy Pelosi. Democratic members of Congress are saying it's time for Nancy Pelosi to go. And I can't wait to celebrate her retirement personally. Maybe you feel the same. I'm sure that you do. All right. So how did Donald Trump wage such a phenomenal campaign. How did he coalesce the American people and do such a miraculous job of winning the 2024 election? So I have to tell you that in my years of being a student of politics and participating in and observing political campaigns, I've never seen a more effective campaign that was waged than that Donald Trump put together. And you've got to hand it to his people. His fundraising apparatus was a well lubricated machine. His political operatives conducted a great campaign. Susie Wiles, Chris Lasavitas just did a miraculous job. And now the transition team has swung into action, and they're going to deliver. They are going to deliver just like President Trump said. The motto of his campaign is promises made, results delivered, and they have gone right to work and are doing exactly that. But when I zoom out and I look back in retrospect at the campaign, and I look at the things that they were able to do to bring coalitions to bear, and when I think about the 6 or 7 people that had the most profound impact on the campaign, I think about Elon Musk. He gave $100 million to the campaign and related friendly causes. They call them 501c4s, C4s. He donated heavily to those. And then he campaigned in Pennsylvania for a solid month, and people flooded to his events. And I think you have to admit and acknowledge that he had a great impact on the campaign. And then Dana White, he runs the UFC. He and Trump have a friendship that goes back decades. Dana White credits Trump with having made the UFC a successful venture. They were really struggling in the early days. Trump brought him to the Taj Mahal. He came to the events. He was present at the events and really helped the UFC become a sustainable organization. And so Dana White was there for Donald Trump every step of the way. They had an event in Miami that brought tens of thousands of people out. And what the UFC does for Trump brings a lot of people to the UFC, but the UFC humanizes Trump. He goes there, he's one of the guys, he sits ringside cheering on his favorite. And then he did a little spoof where he pretended to wrestle somebody to the ground at one of the events. He's funny. And it was a memorable moment that makes you chuckle. And it just puts Trump in touch with the average person. And that's what these endorsements that Trump got really did for him. Trump went on Joe Rogan. I think there was a combined 10 million person audience. Barron Trump talked Donald Trump into going on YouTube with successful millennial and young YouTubers. And again, it humanized Trump. He sat there and he was relatable to them. And he was respectful to them. And he joked with them. And it allowed people to see Donald Trump's other side, the one that's not this tough, Queens-born street fighter. It allowed people to see the kinder, gentler side of Trump. And I think it brought people to him. And a lot of new voters flooded to Trump. And I think Barron Trump gets a lot of credit. Joe Rogan gets a lot of credit. And those other YouTubers like I think it's the Edmond brothers that flew on Trump Force One with Trump to a rally, the Coachella rally in California that was packed with celebrities. They had a ton of viewers, and it showed them sitting with Trump on Trump Force One, joking around with him. It was very effective. And so what did you see? You saw Harris lying to us, saying that their internal poll showed that she was going to win. We now know that that was another lie. They never had a poll showing that she was going to win. They had a poll showing that it was close enough that if the moon and the stars and the gods lined up on election day, that maybe they might could win, but they never had a poll that showed that she was ahead. Never. So it was another lie. Meanwhile, Trump brought non-traditional Republican voters to the party. Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, young people. Bobby Kennedy Jr. brought a lot of independents and moderate Democrats to the table to vote for Trump, who Bobby Kennedy want to make America healthy again. The stuff resonates. And now Elon Musk is evidently Donald Trump's new best friend. They were at Mar-a-Lago Thursday night celebrating Thanksgiving together. And it seemed like they were having a grand old time dancing to the YMCA song. While Harris and Walz talked about joy, it seems like Trump and Musk are the ones that are actually joyful. And now they're all about to go to work. And Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to head the Department of Government Efficiency. And Musk has said that he can cut out $2 trillion of the federal budget really without blinking an eye. And if he is able to do that, you immediately get rid of the deficit. You get to a balanced budget. You get us back to the $4 trillion that we raise every year in taxes. And you get rid of the $2 trillion deficit that is destroying this country. And it's going to take that kind of radical policy in order to achieve it. I want you to know how grateful I am to each one of our listeners and viewers of our live stream. We really don't take this airtime for granted. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to come to you each week with our insights into the news of the day. As I'm fond of saying, we watch the news so you don't have to. We also would like to encourage our radio listeners to go to rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com, search for John Gordon Truth, and subscribe to our channel. That little act of kindness on your part would go so far because it would help us expand our reach. And for a limited time only, if you will subscribe to our channel and then email me at johngordontruth@gmail.com, we will put you in a raffle for this once-in-a-lifetime Trump hat signed by none other than Rudy Giuliani.
Wow.
And that's the truth. And thank you for your consideration. Just as I've said, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm just being real. I've said that while they were telling you that Trump was a threat to democracy, I was telling you he was a threat to bureaucracy. And that is exactly what is going to happen. They're talking about getting rid of as many as 1 million government workers, just like Musk did when he bought Twitter. He got rid of 2/3 of the workforce. He went from 100,000 down to less than 30,000 workers at Twitter. And it cost him nothing. He got rid of the dead weight. He got rid of the people who would not come back to the office to work, who staged some of these little protests saying that, they were untouchable. Well, Musk just proved to them that they were as insignificant and as unnecessary as they were. And now, folks, are you reading that a large percentage of federal workers do not report to the office every day in Washington, that they're still working from home? Well, guess what? That's all about to come to a screeching halt. So the way I see it, there are a number of federal workers like Jack Smith who are going to just quit. They're going to see the handwriting on the wall And rather than leave in disgrace, they're just going to quit. They've got their resume out right now. They're looking for another job. Now, in Jack Smith's case, I think he is quitting because he wants to keep whatever benefits he may have as a former federal worker as opposed to a fired federal worker. And you know that Trump would fire Jack Smith if the inauguration's at 10 o'clock. Jack Smith's going to be toast at 12:01. As soon as the inauguration is over and Trump's able to get to the Oval Office, the first official act will be to fire would have been to fire Jack Smith. But Jack Smith's not off the hot seat yet. Just mark my word, Pam Bondi will hire prosecutors that are going to go investigate all the things that have been wrong for the last 4 years. They will investigate Jack Smith. They will get whatever internal memos haven't been shredded or sanitized, and they will start putting people under oath, and they will start copping pleas with offering plea deals to people who are going to rat out other people. And we're going to get to the truth of the lawfare that we have had to endure for the last 4 years. We are probably going to unravel the lawfare that was brought against Trump in the 2 fake, phony impeachments and the 4 fake, phony prosecutions. Now, that's going to take an awful lot of prosecutors. Maybe she will be able to hire Matt Gatz to be one of those prosecutors that don't require Senate confirmation. Maybe he can be a part of the solution yet. So I don't think Gatz is done. I don't know where he's going to land, and I don't know what his political future holds. He has been rumored to be a potential candidate for governor in Florida. DeSantis only has 2 more years. I think that's a distinct possibility. He could end up in the Justice Department, or he could end up in Doge and help Musk, or he could rerun for the Congress. So I don't know if I finished that thought earlier, but I don't think Gatz is done yet. There is a path for him in politics. But the bigger question is how Trump will dismantle the deep state. And that is the excitement, I think, that is coming in the next administration. But I'll tell you what my biggest worry is. And I am optimistic. I do think that the team Trump has surrounded himself with, they're all winners. If you watch the way that Trump conducts himself, he just doesn't allow losers into the fold. People who've run for office who didn't win, they're not invited back in. There are a couple of exceptions to that. Oz has been offered an ambassadorship. Herschel Walker has been welcomed back into the fold. Aside from that, there are just not too many of us who've run for election who have been invited back in. That's okay. You know the rules when you go into it. You know the way that the rules of the Trump world. And so you just take those lumps and keep moving. In my own case, I'm going to be true to my beliefs, true to what I think. I'm not going to let pettiness rule my conduct or my thoughts. But Trump has surrounded himself with people that are fighters. As I said, many of them are victims of the very bureaucracy they are now going to be leading. I think it's going to be a wild ride. What I worry about is I don't think that Trump is safe. And Vladimir Putin, Thursday, in his press conference where he stood and took questions for over an hour, unlike Harris, who wouldn't even go on Joe Rogan, it's just all such a crock, such a lie. She said, oh, well, we just couldn't get a date. Well, to go get a date with somebody that can put you in front of 10 million voters, you're damn right. You figure out a way to get to Austin, Texas to sit for the interview on his terms, not yours, which is exactly what Trump did, not Harris. Anyway, Putin said that he did not believe that Donald Trump was safe. I guarantee you that there are members of the deep state that have infiltrated Trump's organization. They know his schedule. They are looking for any vulnerability, And I do believe that there will be further attempts on Trump's life. And I worry myself sick about it. And obviously, Putin shares that concern. And I just hope the people that are responsible for Trump's safety are ever vigilant. And I pray for their wisdom and their competence. And I hope that President Trump has his own people overlooking his security. I know that's tricky, but I've advocated it since Butler. I don't know what happened in Butler, but the official narrative for our listeners, you know that I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I won't be satisfied until, at least in part, we know the whereabouts and who Maxwell Urich is or was, and what his connection was to Thomas Matthew Crooks. I want to know about all the innuendo and the ties to the deep state and to the CIA that Maxwell Urich had. We know that his van was in Butler, Pennsylvania. We saw it being towed away from the venue. We were told that it contained explosives. Maxwell Urich's father owns Urich Munitions in Mesa, Arizona. The van had Mesa, Arizona, or Arizona license plates on it. Maxwell Urich's parents filed a missing persons report on July the 13th or 14th on their son. I have not heard any word on his whereabouts, whether he has been found, whether he is alive or dead. And I think he is a missing link into what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, no less than the guy who tried to take President Trump's life in West Palm Beach. He, like Urich, fought in the Ukraine and had alleged ties to the CIA. So I think the deep state, the shadow government, and I am told that there are conflicting or different levels within our federal government. You've got permanent Washington, which is the deep state, and then you have the shadow government, which are the intelligence community, or maybe I've got it backwards, I don't know. But there is a distinction to be made there. And people like Brennan and Comey, they're the deep state that I'm referring to, the people in the intelligence community that literally hate Donald Trump, make no bones about it, have tried to sabotage him since the day that he came in office. I believe they are still sabotaging him because I think this time, when Trump is the 47th president of the United States, he is not going to allow them to go quietly into the night. I urge him, release the Kennedy files, release all the information that the federal government has in its files that will answer the questions of who was behind Butler, Pennsylvania, who was behind the attempted assassination in West Palm Beach. And did the Secret Service shirk its responsibility? When you look at that theater in Butler, they may as well have had a neon sign saying, "Open, welcome, come on in." They let the guard down at best, and were complicit at worst. Fact is, I don't know which story to buy, but I don't believe Matthew Crooks worked alone. I don't think that this guy that was a carpenter from Hawaii and was made I think $36,000 a year, according to him, had the money to travel to the Ukraine, travel to West Palm Beach. I mean, he had to pay for an airline ticket. He had to get a rental car. He had to have a place to stay. It just doesn't, the story doesn't wash. And we need truth. We need the answers to these questions. And I think that the only way, I think sunshine is the best disinfectant there is. And I hope that the Trump administration will go find the answers to these questions, expose these people and the evil that they represent, and get it all out into the open so that they will be stopped in their tracks. So you've got Elon Musk, Dana White, Joe Rogan, Barron Trump, and Robert Kennedy, who I think Trump can thank for helping get him across the line in the 2024 election. I also think Christians, evangelicals, Catholics, and as we've talked about, Christians who have not previously voted before, who came out for Trump, deserve huge amounts of credit. And I know that Trump is going to remember them when he takes office and help return this country and legitimize Christians and allow them to worship without government interference. So there's a lot to be optimistic for. And on this time of Thanksgiving, there is a lot to be thankful for. The media are shaking in their boots. I mean, could you believe? I don't know how to characterize it. Just the desperation that Morning Joe Scarborough, and Mika Brzezinski exhibited by traveling to Mar-a-Lago and kissing the ring. And I wonder what they hope to achieve. It was such clearly an act of desperation. I guess if you frame it in its most positive light, it was, okay, you win, we lose. We're going to play nice now. Can we all get along? Well, the fact is, we just don't know. The only people who really know are Morning Joe, Mika, President Trump, and whoever else he had in the room. Very little has actually come out about the meeting, but they have gotten as deep into the gutter for the last 8 years and are responsible for much of the animosity that people feel towards Trump, of anyone in the mainstream media. You can't put David Muir in the same category. David Muir had a bigger stage and a more compelling reason to behave as a journalist. At least Morning Joe and Mika don't make any bones that they're not news people, they're editorialists. And so, but David Muir went to that debate as a moderator, as a journalist, yet he became a part of the debate. He became an advocate for Harris. Their ratings have tumbled. Well, so have Morning Joe's ratings tumbled. But if they thought they were going to go there and save their hide by playing nice with Trump, they made a horrible miscalculation, because they'd already alienated their audience, who have already left them, that are not coming back. I mean, I used to watch Morning Joe occasionally just so I could intellectually receive information that maybe the other side would present, and I could at least consider what they were saying. Invariably, when I would go and listen, I would get so turned off and so aggravated because what they were saying were lies. Like when they would call Trump, analogize him to Hitler, or call him a fascist, or when they would be disparaging towards MAGA people and call them extremists. And after the Madison Square Garden rally, they were analogizing it to the Nazi rally held in Madison Square Garden in the 40s. I mean, these are just damnable lies that they would tell. And so they had already alienated people like you and me that consider themselves MAGA, although I don't consider myself an extremist unless you consider worshiping God, believing in the flag, believing in the 10 Commandments and the Bible as extremist conditions, unlike Harris, who said that when the kids at her rally said, Jesus is Lord, she said, oh, no, you're at the wrong rally. You're supposed to be at the one down the street. I mean, if that doesn't tell it all, I don't know what does. So a big part of MSNBC, who I love to refer to as MSNBS, had already lost about half their audience. In an absolute last-ditch show of desperation, they go to Mar-a-Lago to kiss and make up. And what do? They alienate another large percent of the Harris loyalists who feel now betrayed by Scarborough and his wife Brzezinski, and they turn off the show. So now what does Comcast, who owns NBC and CNBS, what do? They start looking for somebody to buy them because they're toast. They no longer have a sustainable business model. And what I want to say to our listeners today, the fight is not over. We have just begun to fight. If you are one of the people in Pennsylvania who have not voted in the last several elections, but came back to vote this time, if you are a Black who voted Republican, maybe for the first time, because you want freedom of speech, you want criminal justice reform, you don't want to be taken for granted, or if you're an Hispanic and you don't want millions of new Hispanics to come and compete for your jobs that you've held for the last 10 years, and you came out and voted, or if you're a suburban housewife or an independent or a moderate Democrat who for the first time voted Republican because you believe in the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and you want honest, free, fair elections. That's what this Republican Party stands for. If you don't like inflation, if you don't want two wars, one in the Ukraine and one in the Middle East, and a third brewing over China's attempt to take back Taiwan, then you got to vote Republican. But just realize the deep state, permanent Washington, they're still there. They are going to continue to try and force their policies on the American people. We have only begun to fight. Freedom cannot be a 1 month exercise every 4 years. It has got to be a consistent, unrelenting pursuit of happiness and pursuit of freedom and pursuit of the American dream, where you're free to worship and you're free to voice your opinion without fear of government reprisals. On that note, I'm going to end the show today talking about Tim Rogers, who we had on the show last week. And I hope you were able to tune in. If you were not, all of our past shows are on rumble.com. If you go there and search for The Truth with John Gordon, they will all come up and you can hear last week's show. Now, Tim Rogers is a guy who has been fighting for the freedom of January 6th political prisoners. And he authored 2 books, one known as American Gulag Chronicles, The Art of Confinement, and another, Letters from Prison. And if you listened to the show last week, you know that I said that if you will write me at johngordontruth at gmail.com, I'll send you a book. If you're among the first to respond, I bought a number of books. I'm already giving one away to Jean and one away to Suzanne, both of whom are devoted listeners who back channel me all the time, critique the show, give me ideas for future shows, and I thank you so much. But they emailed me immediately. So their copies are on their way to me, and I will forward them to them. But you too can get a copy. But more importantly, I really want our listeners to take the time to write to your representatives, encourage them to help Donald Trump pardon the J6 political prisoners, many of whom, hundreds of whom, are rotting away in jail to this day, not having been indicted, and they are being held political prisoners. To me, January 6th was one of the lowest days in American history, not because of the march on the Capitol and people exercising their right to free speech, because of the aftermath of J6, because of the murder of Ashley Babbitt. And I hope that the truth behind why Michael Byrd drew his service revolver and shot and killed that American veteran in cold blood, who was a threat to no one, I hope the facts will come to life. I want to know who Ray Epps was, who he is, whose payroll he was on January the 6th. I want it to come out. I want all these secrets of the deep state to be exposed. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. I want to cleanse America. I want the secrets to come out. And we can start with the J6 fiasco and freeing the J6ers. Tim Rogers has worked for the last 3 years to do just that. And he has a website. It's called AmericanGulagChronicles.com. That's one of the websites. The other website is J6patriotnews.com. And you can go there on J6patriotnews.com. He also tells you how you can write to J6 prisoners who are in jail right now. And you can just write them a message of hope and support. It would do so much to lift their spirits. I have committed to doing that. I am going to do that. When I get back to West Palm Beach this week, I'm going to make that one of my priorities, to sit down and write some of the prisoners. There are hundreds of them. Unfortunately, I can't write to them all, but I am going to write to some of them, and you can too. But you can also write to your elected officials, which I also intend to do. And I hope that Donald Trump will free the J6 prisoners very soon after his confirmation or inauguration. But I am told that it has to be done in a way that not only gets them out of jail, but restores their rights and privileges and freedoms to them. So I'm looking forward to that day. And I just want Donald Trump to remain safe. I think that when one of the world leaders say openly and notoriously that Donald Trump is not safe, that we have to take note of that. And so on this weekend of Thanksgiving, as I pray and thank God for the blessings that we've been given, for the gratitude that I have for my wife and 3 sons, the mom and dad that I had, the life that I've been able to live, and the opportunities that I've had as an American, that they continue for my sons, and so far for my one grandchild, who I've got to spend a lot of time with over the Thanksgiving weekend. I also pray for the safety of the soon-to-be 47th President of the United States. And I hope that President Trump and his people are taking measures to protect him. Because I'm telling you, this notion that Iran was behind the assassinations, there may be truth to it, but I guarantee you, every instinct I have tells me that they were working hand in hand with the deep state in this country, and that they are the true threat, that they are after Donald Trump, because come January 21st, 2025, they are going to have a rude awakening. I believe that Trump is going to expose them all and expose all these deeds, and that we will get the cleansing that we need in this country, that Bobby Kennedy will help him, that Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk will help him, that Tulsi Gabbard will help him. And I hope that Matt Gatz has a role in helping him, that we've got an army now that are ready to go out and fight. I'm just telling you, folks, we have won a significant battle, but the fight has only yet begun. We are about to go onto the battlefield. President Trump needs every single one of us, including all those glorious Amish who went out in the state of Pennsylvania and Ohio and voted for Donald Trump. 200,000 of them, and traditionally only 3,000 vote. 90,000 voted this time. I hope you're listening to The Truth, where we come to you in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh every week on the John Fredericks Media Network and on the CD Media digital platforms, on 13 digital platforms around the World Wide Web. This is The Truth. I'm John Gordon, and I look forward to continuing to tell you the truth. Just take this word as we're leaving you today. The fight has just begun. We have to continue to fight for our country, for our freedoms, and for our 47th President of the United States. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. We'll be back this time next week for another edition of The Truth.